The biggest thing is we were told by other people you shouldn't waste time to apply for the program because you have black children and you won't be allowed into the program, and because Vanna has an EU passport, you won't be allowed in the program. And it made us very negative.
Good morning, folks. For months, we've listened to the fake news, legacy media in South Africa, and also legacy media here in the United States run fantasies, fairy tales, and lies about the diplomatic relationship between the United States and South Africa, pretending that it's all a fabrication of Donald Trump, ignoring the past 25 years of transgressions by the South Africa's ANC. Additionally, ever since Trump announced his refugee program, we've heard the endless lies and fairy tales told about this program by the likes of Daily Maverick, News 24, the IOL, and a host of other South African media outlets, as well as American media outlets like the New York Times and the Washington Post. The reality is this program, while there may be a priority for Afrikaners, it hasn't played out that way. In essence, the priority has been for white South Africans, but even that's not a complete story. As I said from the outset on February 7th, I would hope that the program would be available to ethnic minorities. By that, I meant racial minorities. On the 10th of February, when the U.S. Embassy announced this program, it stated clearly that you had to be an Afrikaner or a racial minority suffering from unjust persecution. That has remained consistent throughout the program. Yet, every South African media outlet, almost without fail, although a couple have begun to moderate their comments in the past week or two, but after 10 months of lies and propaganda and disinformation, after so much time, they've been lying about this. The reality is the program is open up to many other people, including, as I said from the very beginning, to colored South Africans, to Indian South Africans, and even, as I indicated, possibly to black South Africans who, well, adopted children of Indian, colored, or white families, as well as those in interracial marriages. All could come over here. And in fact, I've been telling you, in the 59ers, the first group that came over, there was a colored family. There are Indians over here in Virginia, among other places. There are coloreds in California and in Texas and around the country. Yet none were brave enough to come forward and do an interview until now. It's now been 2 days. I've given the South African media a chance to break a story that is the biggest story to break. But of course, they don't want to break the story. Why? Because it undermines the lie, the narrative that the media in South Africa have been pushing for 10 months. And we've heard Ronald Lamola claim that Donald Trump has this program because it's a white supremacy program.
That is fear-mongering to pursue the agenda of white supremacy.
You think Trump is pursuing a white supremacist agenda?
Yes, I think so.
To rebuild America's white population. That's the most asinine thing I've ever heard. A couple thousand white South Africans, most of whom are beyond the childbearing age, are going to change the demographics of America? What an idiotic comment. That's about as dumb as saying America's inherently racist. It's not. It was a bunch of old white men in 1965 who changed the law. Stupid comments from stupid people.
With the program to take the white Afrikaners from South Africa, it's a clear program to back up the issue of white supremacy. And when you look at the Geneva Convention, they don't fit the definition of a refugee.
Ronald Lamola has insulted this country and lied about the program, calling Trump a white supremacist. That's the purpose of the program. We've heard Fikile Mbalula lie about the program and saying that they're all car guards. Well, the latest interview proves that that's not true.
But because of what you said, that everyone will be given a fair opportunity. It's case by case. It's analyzed case by case. There is obvious guidelines, and we applied and we had faith. And every time when the case came forward, it's obvious we have adopted children, but the one thing that you don't see is that Vanna has an EU passport, and the twins was declined an EU passport due to the EU regulations, what the rules are with adoption. And we informed, obviously, in all our interviews, we brought it up, and even with Homeland. And they wanted to justify, we had to explain, why can't we go and live in Europe? Now, if Vanna has the EU, Via has it, or WJ, if we go there, we have to, myself and the twins can go on spousal visas, but every few months or years, depending on where you are in the process, we have to leave the country, go back to our home country for 3 months or so, and then go back. And that defeats the purpose. I mean, why would just the girls go back to South Africa by themselves?
Additionally, we've heard Fikile Mabulula spread the lies and propaganda that South African media repeated, falsely claiming, based on a YouTube video and a tweet, that the refugees were killing each other. Remember this lie? Just a few months back, they're killing each other. No. A U.S. former service member who married a South African in South Africa after having met her in the Middle East and then came to America in Virginia, murdered his wife. Nothing to do with the refugee program. The lies, fairy tales, and disinformation from the South African government and the media in South Africa are endless. There's so many of them I can't even remember them all. But it's absolutely ridiculous. Car guards murdering each other, white supremacy, all poppycock, balderdash, BS.
As you have said with regards to the program of a refugee, when you look at it, it's race-based. Firstly, you must be a white South African, and secondly, you must be an Afrikaner. So it's a race-based refugee program.
The interview with the Stoltz family is not getting any attention. Yet the story of Mr. Schoonwinkel, who tried to get around the immigration program by lying on his visa application and flying to America with the intention of declaring asylum, which was a lie. He said he came for tourism. Mr. Schoonwinkel's in detention, has been now since September, when he tried to slip in the country, 7 months after Trump announced a refugee program, not an asylum program. That story is being played all over South African media. The New York Times broke the story. I covered the story before South African media did, and then they covered the story. And most of them got it wrong. They took the angle that they wanted to suit their narrative. Where is the South African media today on the Schoonwinkel story? All over it. Where is the South African media in correcting record about their lies about the refugee program? That's a white supremacy program, Ronald Lamola. That is for car guards, Fikile Mabulula. Or that they're murdering each other, Fikile Mabulula. Or Cyril Ramaphosa hauntingly saying, we don't run to other countries to solve our problems. Really? This story is getting no attention. And it's a story that won't get attention between the shadow banning on YouTube and the intentional negligence of reporting the story. And let me make this prediction. If South African media actually starts carrying this story, the odds of them telling the truth about it are pretty slim. Pretty slim. They'll probably take some angle like, oh, wealthy white South Africans went to America and they kidnapped black kids. You watch, they'll try that. These children were abandoned and they were lovingly adopted by this family. And this family breaks all the rules. Breaks all the myths about this stuff. First off, they weren't dirt poor South Africans. Second, we have a person who has a passport for a safe haven, but wasn't the primary applicant because the rest of the family couldn't go to Europe with that father. So the mother applied and he came over. Third, it's not just for Afrikaners. It's not just for white South Africans. Their children are black. They came over. And fourth, this also covers the topic about adoption. You can bring adopted children over. Here's the case to prove it. And finally, one of their children is autistic, as they revealed in the interview. Questions about autism and chronic diseases. We can't come over. That's not true. I've told you that from the outset. Now, I challenge the South African media to cover the story and to cover it honestly. There you go. Do you think they will? I don't. Happy New Year, South Africa. Cheers.
It looked like our country, South Africa, is going to have a taste of imperialist aggression of the United States of America, led by Donald Trump. If it means we're going to suffer through sanctions as leaders of the ANC, let it be. If they want to bring sanctions on us, let them bring them.